everybody, and welcome to the 30-day self-healing challenge. I really wanted to do this challenge before we go into the holiday season because it's a perfect time for you to cleanse and heal your body before the new year. We're in a time of a lot of things happening around us, and a lot of this causes a lot of uncertainty, stress, and anxiety, and even more, that fear causes us to really want to disconnect and separate from the physical body. But in reality, this is the time to connect even more so with the physical body and feel and come fully into the present moment so that we can then be in charge of what's happening to our bodies, and collectively we become aware of what's happening to our society as a one whole. We have to begin to look at things as a collective, not just individual. However, it's not our responsibility to save or change the things that are happening around us. In fact, it is our number one responsibility to change and work with everything that's happening inside here so that we can show up and be a beacon of light and embody truth and embody and walk that talk that we talk about, of embodying wisdom and knowledge and beginning to hold space for all of those that need that support as well. So in this journey of 30 days, I'm going to be walking you through really in-depth, intensive training and learning how to heal your body. I'm going to show you techniques on how to remove pain, illnesses, depression, all of these blockages out of the body so that you too can learn how to do that. And as you begin to see the changes immediately, the moment that you begin to move something out of your body and you decide that what you're experiencing and feeling is no longer going to be affecting you without your permission, it immediately begins to change the way that you feel about yourself. You are more empowered. You understand that you are the master of your body and your mind. And this is my hope and my dream for you to come into this challenge with. And this is what we will be leaving the challenge with. So today I just want to talk about a quick intro as to how we identify pains and blockages in the physical body. Pains and blockages are a result of stagnant and unprocessed thought forms. Anytime that we don't process fully an experience that has overloaded the senses, causes us to go into a fight or flight mode. And when we go into fight or flight, the defense systems step up to the plate, and oftentimes it tries to find a similar experience in the past in the mind that it can relate to educate and support the next reaction, the next response, emotionally, physically, mentally, in every way. But oftentimes when we come into new experiences that are unfamiliar to us, this response gets stuck because it doesn't know how to respond. And oftentimes when we are in the fear body, when we are afraid in this survival mode of fight or flight, we oftentimes don't have the time or give ourselves the appropriate time to identify what's a rational, logical, and safest way to respond in that experience, in that event. And so what happens is that these create thought forms that over time, they begin to form in the body. And this is also called trauma. But if we continue to experience these unknown experiences that cause stress, anxiety, trauma, fear on a daily basis, let's say we live in a very hectic environment that is stressful, very toxic environment with negative people around you all the time, you're constantly going to be repeating these patterns and constantly coming into a flight or fight mode. And when we don't take the time to go back to that moment, and since in that exact moment you didn't have the tools to help you, go through meditation and provide yourself with the tools, learn that experience so that you know how to respond in the future. We go through a lifetime of continuing to pile up these unresolved emotions. We don't know ourselves. We are not familiar with our emotions. We are not familiar with how to respond when something fearful happens, when someone says something and catches us off guard, when somebody does something that causes us to feel uncomfortable. All of these things are stored within the body in this holographic system. As you know, our body is multidimensional. It's holographic. The way that we store experiences is not just memories that are stored in a certain part of our brain. It's a holographic system that records experiences physically, emotionally, and mentally. Okay, so the three parts of us are fully engaged in all experiences. And even though we may not be aware of that, the subconscious mind is the recording system that is constantly recording all these experiences. And so what happens when we are storing and storing these incomplete, unprocessed emotions? Over time, they are storing in the body. And normally, depending on how this event occurred and the kind of things that are occurring in that experience, your body is responding from where the wisdom of the body needs to respond. So for example, if it's an experience with a loved one that made you feel unworthy, the part of your body that governs that thought form, that identity of the self, is the heart, for example. So the heart, this chest area, will be the one that will suppress that emotion. That is the origin of that response system, or the blockage of the response system. When we are healthy and connected and aware of ourselves in experiences, we have something called our intuition, which is very interconnected with the body. The intuitive mind is not just an intuitive mind. It's not an entity apart from the physical body. It's an entire organism that becomes intuitive. And that's what we want to try to train ourselves, is to become an entire intuitive organism, instead of just thinking that we're just receiving messages from some off place. Our gut system, for example, is known as the second brain, right? It's our gut. So it works with our intuition to help us know what things are safe for us, good for us. There's a wisdom within the body that transcends any kind of books that you can read, any kind of experiences that you've had, because a lot of us are cycling through cyclical patterns that go down our ancestral lineage. We've already had a lot of these experiences, a lot of us. But when we're externalizing the experience and looking outside for answers, we neglect that part of us that has that inner wisdom. So with this kind of work, we want to reconnect those two systems, right? The part of you that is trying to externalize and figure out how to navigate the physical plane and the things that are happening outside, and the internal voice that's kind of guiding and providing really, really valuable information that you may not even knew that you had within you. So this is where we want to find a merging place. This is where, when these two get married, we are then operating at from a higher place. Okay, so in the body, when you're meditating and you begin to identify where you're holding on to that emotion, that is the juicy stuff. That is your gateway to infinite amount of information. This emotion that you feel in your body is going to open up an entire historical timeline of that repeated emotion. It's also going to provide you with trigger information. You're going to understand what causes those triggers. And we want to identify what caused that triggers, because that's how we learn about ourselves. We also learn how to respond in a better way, in a wiser way, because we've now understood those experiences. So with this kind of work, we follow the emotion back to the root, and we open those experiences. We become familiar with how we felt. You don't need to remember the memory of what happened. You don't need to relive that experience. All you need to do is follow the emotion and understand what it is that you needed in that moment in order to help you move through that emotion. This is how we begin to educate ourselves on our emotion. And it's a very powerful and super important thing to do with your children, with yourself. If you begin to have this awareness, it really brings your level of awareness to the next step, in where you're now embodying presence. Because if you're constantly becoming aware of the things that trigger you, you can also choose how you're going to respond. And you're no longer in this constant cause and effect where things are catching you off guard because you're not aware, or where things are triggering you and you're just responding like a clown to what's happening, or I like to use the analogy of a candle in the wind, where the wind moves one way and you move along with that movement. So we end up exhausted, drained, and the multidimensional body is all a hot mess. So this is how we end up with illnesses and with all of this stagnant stuff in the body, because that's where you're perceiving your experiences from. You're perceiving it from this pain, and we become slaves to that pain. And our entire life is a vibrational frequency to that match. So you're bringing in this same pain into your life over and over again. And you're going to be met with those experiences that are going to highlight that suffering over and over again until you understand how to resolve and how to work with that. So this work is so incredibly important to our lifestyle, to our well-being, to our health, to our thriving, to creating, manifesting abundance, everything that we require in this life. These are the building blocks of our creative self. And so if you don't know this information, this is a perfect time to know it because you're going to need it. Right now, the world is going through a point of transition. How do we know? How do we find clarity? How to move forward is by understanding ourselves and how we operate, because the systems around us are built from the inside out. They know you better than you know yourself. And that's where we become blindsided and feel lost and helpless in a system. In reality, we are a much larger community of a whole human race that has the ability to be sovereign, to embody the free will, and to be able to choose consciously how we want to experience life. And it starts right here in your understanding of your emotions and your suffering and pain. So let's start from the inside out and clear that out. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope this information helped you to kind of understand those blockages. This is just very small first step into going much deeper into understanding those blockages. We are starting a course of 30 days of self-healing. I will train you to connect with that emotion and remove from your body those emotions. You're going to be training the 5 senses, the intuitive body, activating the higher levels of the body so you can begin to perform and look at the world from a much broader perspective, instead of from down here, the physical body, which is so easily manipulated, hijacked, and all kinds of things happen when we are only living from the feeling body. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an incredible day. And if you want to join the 30-day self-healing challenge, I want you to register on my website. The link is below. Please share this video with who you think would benefit from it, and subscribe. All right. I love you so much. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you soon.